Hey there, my name is Ahmad Homidi and thank you for watching this video. I do receive calls, texts, and emails from people all over the country who are thinking about relocating to Austin, Texas. And if you are somebody that's thinking about relocating, I would love to be a resource for you. In this video, we're going to talk about the pros and the cons of living in Austin, Texas. You've probably heard a lot of the good reasons why people are moving here, but you may not have heard all of the cons, all of the reasons why you may want to reconsider whether Austin is right for you. So in this video, I won't hold anything back. And so let's just get right into it. Here are the pros and the cons of living in Austin, Texas. I'll get started with the pros. And one of the main reasons why people are moving to Austin has to do with the housing situation. So let me touch on that real quickly. I'll give you an overview first. What's happening here is Texas is the #1 fastest growing state as far as population is concerned in the entire country. In return, what that means for Austin is among one of the fastest growing metro areas in the entire country. The reason why it's growing so fast, there's a lot of reasons which I'll touch upon in this video, but I think one of the main reasons has to do with the housing situation. When it comes to housing here in Austin, there's really two ways that you can look at it. The first way is you can look at it from the perspective of somebody that's a local. When I talk to local Austinites, they are shocked at how high home prices have gotten recently. Now, home prices skyrocketed in 2019, 2021, all the way to mid-2022. And then we saw home prices decline a little bit, but overall home prices have just skyrocketed and they are shocked at how high home prices have gotten. And then the second way you could look at home prices in Austin is from an outsider's perspective. So many people are moving to Austin, and they're moving to Austin from two different areas. They're moving to Austin from within the state of Texas. So about 50% of new people moving to Austin come from Dallas and Houston and San Antonio. And then the other 50% come from outside of the state. And they're coming here from areas like Southern California, Northern California, Seattle, Washington, on the West Coast. And then on the East Coast, they're coming from areas like New York and New Jersey, Chicago, Illinois, and Pennsylvania, and also Florida. And what all of those areas have in common is that, relatively speaking, their home prices are much higher than home prices here in Austin. So, from their point of view, home prices in Austin are still relatively considered to be affordable. Okay. Let me give you an insight onto what's going on here in the housing market. The average priced home in Austin is $527,000. That's 8% lower than the average home price last year. So prices are coming down in the Austin area. However, they are still higher than the national average. So as you can see, Austin is considered to be less affordable than the national average. However, as I mentioned, when you compare them to the other larger cities, especially in the West Coast and on the East Coast, home prices in Austin are still much more affordable. In Austin, the average size of a home is 2,092 square feet. That is 200 square feet larger than the national average. So you are paying more for a home in Austin, but it's also going to be a larger home. I'll also provide you some data on what's going on in the rental market in Austin, because it's possible that you are thinking about moving to Austin and not purchasing a home. Instead, you are thinking about moving here and renting. So the average rental cost in Austin is about $1,800 per month, and the average apartment size is 863 square feet. And the last thing I want to talk about as it relates to housing in the Austin area has to do with new home construction. There's a ton of opportunities for buyers to purchase brand new homes in the Austin area because it is developing and growing so rapidly. This is something that I think is really attracting buyers to the Austin area. Not only is housing still considered to be relatively affordable, but it's relatively affordable to purchase a brand new home. And those two factors combined, I think, is one of the main reasons why so many people are moving in to Austin, Texas. The second pro of living in Austin, Texas has to do with the cost of living. Now, if we're looking at just the city of Austin itself, the cost of living is actually 1% higher than the national average. However, if we were to include the suburbs of Austin, then the cost of living actually can be below the national average. Okay, so I want you to keep in mind that I've listed this as a pro, but it can easily be a con because the housing costs in Austin are 16% higher than the national average. However, all the other things that factor into the cost of living are below the national average. and I'm going to get into the numbers here. So let's start with the utility costs. Utility costs are 6% lower than the national average. Food costs are 9% lower than the national average. Healthcare costs are 2% higher than the national average. Transportation costs are 9% lower, and goods and services are 2% lower. Real quickly, I want to justify why I have this in my category of pros and not a con. I understand that housing costs are 16% higher, while the overall cost of living is just 1% higher than the national average, so it can easily be a con. I have it listed as a pro because the suburbs around Austin are where many people are moving into, and that's really what's attracting the growth in the Austin area. So you can get the best of both worlds, where you can buy in one of these suburbs of Austin and the cost of housing will come down dramatically, and then you also get the benefit of the overall cost of living in the area. So you get lower housing costs in the suburbs, and you get the lower utility costs, food costs, healthcare costs, transportation costs, and goods and services costs, making your overall cost of living much lower. So I hope I've convinced you that that's a good enough reason why the overall cost of living is in the pro category for me and not in the cons category. And number 3 on my list of pros for living in Austin, Texas is the economic and business-friendly climate. Now, you probably already know that Austin has a bit of a reputation for being a tech hub. Austin already had a lot of companies here, companies like Apple and Dell and Facebook and Google, which have large campuses. But now, more recently, with companies moving in like Tesla, Oracle, and Samsung, Austin is really becoming a major player in the tech sector. And aside from just tech jobs, there are a lot of other fields that are high paying here in the Austin area. And what's surprising to some, but it really shouldn't be, is that there are a lot of government and military jobs here, especially a lot of government jobs, which makes sense being that Austin is the capital of Texas. In Austin, there are a lot of good high paying jobs, and there's a lot of upward mobility, and I think this is another main reason why so many people are moving here to the Austin area. There's just so many opportunities when it comes to job prospects. And number 4 on my list of pros for living in Austin, Texas is its diversity. As I mentioned, Austin is just rapidly growing, and that means that a lot of people are moving in, and those are people with different skill sets, different backgrounds, and people from different walks of life. Now, Austin has always been very welcoming, and I think it's even more so now. It's becoming a lot more professional as more professionals are moving into the area, so that could be taken as both good or bad. I know that Austin in the past, and probably still, has prided itself on keeping Austin weird. Austin definitely is weird in certain aspects, but the culture is changing. It's becoming more professional, it's becoming more diverse, and I'm happy to be a part of that cultural change. And I hope if you're thinking about moving to Austin, you also take joy in moving here and making it what it will become in the future, which I think is going to be a fabulous, welcoming environment for everyone. Not that it's not now, but even more so in the future. And number 5 on my list of pros is that there's a lot of fun things to do here in Austin. Austin is just a really fun city. I think you're really going to enjoy dining out downtown and South Congress. And if you're into shopping, you're going to like the Domain. You may also like the new North Line shopping center that's going to open up in Leander. And if you're somebody that enjoys the outdoors, if you like to go kayaking or boating or paddleboarding, you can do that right in downtown. There is Lady Bird Lake and also the Colorado River that flows right downtown. You could rent a paddleboard or a kayak and just enjoy a day out on the river. There are stops, places where you can stop and enjoy and have a picnic. So you can have just a great day out on the river. Or if you prefer to be out boating, you can go to Lake Travis. As far as hiking and biking is concerned, the good thing about Austin is that we do have hill country, and that means that we have just some phenomenal hiking trails that are scenic with waterfalls that you may not have in some of the other big cities in Texas. And not only is Austin a fun city to live in, if you look at Austin on a map of where it's located in Texas, you'll see that it's pretty centrally located. It's about an hour and a half drive to San Antonio, it's 2.5 hours to Houston, and about 3 hours drive to Dallas, which makes for a fun weekend getaway. Let's say on a Friday night, you want to go out for the weekend, you can hop in your car and spend a weekend in any of these other cities, have a great time, and be back by Sunday evening just in time to recuperate and be ready for work on Monday. And let's move on to the cons of living in Austin, Texas. And this is probably what you've been waiting to hear. You've probably heard a lot of the good things, and you want to hear reasons why you may want to reconsider moving to Austin, or you want to hear reasons why Austin may not be right for you. So here is number one on my list of cons. It's the growing pains that comes along with this rapid expansion. So that's number one on my list of cons. Austin just was not ready for so many people to move in to Austin all at the same time. And so there's a lot of updating and upgrading that we need to do to our infrastructure. We are seeing it just about everywhere where we're widening the streets. There's a lot of construction, not just for housing, but for retail and commercial projects. And I don't see the rapid expansion stopping anytime soon, which means that this is going to be something that we'll be dealing with for a very long time. Which leads me conveniently to number two on my list of cons, which is the traffic. Now, with this rapid expansion, that just means more people are here, and with more people, that means that our city streets are more congested, and so are our freeways. The freeways, especially I-35, is bumper to bumper during rush hour traffic. Now, the good thing is that we do have toll roads that help us to avoid the traffic. Of course, that comes at a cost. And I'm also noticing that the toll roads are starting to become more congested as well. And if we just look into the future, as more people move here, I think those toll roads will also be bumper to bumper. Another thing I want to mention about traffic in the Austin area is I've driven in other cities within Texas, cities like Dallas and Houston and San Antonio. And then outside of Texas, I've driven in the Bay Area and California, and also Southern California, Los Angeles and San Diego. I've driven in the Northeast, in Washington, D.C. and New York. And I have to say that traffic in Austin is nothing compared to any of those cities that I mentioned. So yes, traffic is currently bad and it is getting worse. Relatively speaking, it's not that bad. Okay, let's move on to number three on my list of cons for living in Austin, Texas, and that is the weather. The weather in Austin is a bit crazy. It is extremely hot in the summertime, which you may have already heard, but it can also get really, really cold in the wintertime, and that's something you probably haven't heard. Since I've moved here, we've had days where it's been in the teens, and we've had a day where it was just 7 degrees. Just 7 degrees, single digits. So that's the coldest weather I've experienced, and it happened to be here in Austin, Texas. I've been to Tahoe where it's been like 20 degrees and snowing. Nope, colder here in Austin. So that really surprised me. The other thing you need to know about the weather in Austin, actually let me start with Texas as a whole, is we have some extreme weather conditions. So closer to the Gulf, we have hurricane-like weather, and then in the northern parts of Texas, north of Dallas, we do from time to time have tornadoes, and so I'm happy to say in Austin we don't get hurricanes that often, if ever, and then we normally don't get tornadoes. However, in 2022, I believe, in Round Rock for a few minutes we did have a tornado touchdown. It did cause some property damage, so I do want to mention that. And then lastly, what came as a surprise to me is just how gnarly the lightning and thunderstorms are. And the reason why I mentioned the lightning storms are there have been some direct strikes due to lightning, which have caused some homes to burn down. And so that is something I want to bring to your attention as well. Number 4 on my list of cons are the high property taxes. Texas does not have state income taxes, and to make up for that, we have higher property taxes. What's interesting about property taxes in Austin is that your property tax rate can vary depending on which community you live in, because property tax rates vary from community to community, and that's because there are different taxing authorities that can tax your property. It could be the county, it could be the city, depending on which community you live in. It can also be the school district. And then on top of that, there could be other utility providers or other taxing authorities that may impose taxes on your property. And number 5 on my list of cons for living in Austin, Texas, is that it really sucks to see so many long-term Austin residents feel like they've been priced out of their existing homes. And so what's happening is with home prices going up so high, they can't sell their home and buy within Austin. So in some cases, they are selling their homes and they're buying in the suburbs of Austin. And in many other cases, they're just leaving the city and the area entirely, going out to places like Dallas or Houston or San Antonio, or they're just leaving the state of Texas. All right, so that was my list of the pros and cons of living in Austin, Texas. And me in particular, I love living here. In fact, from time to time, I'll joke around with the kids and I'll ask them if we had the opportunity to go back to California, should we? And they will always reply back with a no. They love it here, and so do I. So if you are thinking about moving to Austin, I would love to help you on that journey. I would love to be a resource for you, so feel free to reach out. I always welcome emails, calls, or texts, whatever works best for you, I'm open to. And just know that I'll always be here for you. My name is Ahmad Homidi. It's been a pleasure, and I will see you on the next video.